can use real Africans to have their support team, their development team, their training team. We run train the trainer programs across the continent. We run fellowship programs as well. One of our fellowship programs is with the African Union. We're in our second cohort now, where we push young people into the African Union, into key positions, and they're digitizing the African Union from within, offering solutions so they can work better, so they can make more better data-focused decision making, and so on. And then for investors, AfriLabs is your gateway to de-risk startups. We have two funds. We have a catalytic fund that is focused on
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Value Seller Talks with Deepak Bajaj, where we connect with extraordinary leaders who is building meaningful, scalable, and lasting impact, not only for the industry, but for the whole community, for the whole ecosystem. Today, I'm super excited to introduce Ajibola. In short, we call him AJ, a powerhouse in Africa's technology and innovation ecosystem. As the CEO, Chief Operating Officer of a STEAM organization, which is AfriLabs, Ajibola plays a pivotal role in aligning over 500 innovation hubs across 53 African countries. Believe me, it's a very big number, it's a very complicated thing, and he is doing and he's master into aligning each and every technology which is required to uplift the Africa and Africans. He is on a mission which is building Africa's digital economy. He is a visionary with more than 15 years of experience spanning across technology, operations, finance, and innovation strategy. From national identity infrastructure to supporting startups and enabling ecosystem, AJ's work is truly pan-African and purpose-driven. So let's dive into his journey, what drives his mission, and how Africa is shaping the future of digital growth. Welcome, AJ, on Value Seller Talks.
Thank you very much, Deepak. How you doing?
I'm absolutely great, no complaints, and yeah, enjoying and loving talking with the great leaders like you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. AJ, your achievement is very long. The list, if I start talking, it will not end, believe me. And the one word which I understand from you that you are actually creating the benchmark. But to start with all these discussions, your purpose, we want to know AJ Ajibola as a person first.
Thank you very much. I'll say I'm quite a simple person, driven by impact. So if you see my journey, it's been very, very intentional and impact driven. So I have two bachelors in finance. So I have an accounting and finance degree. I have another bachelor's in business and finance. I have a master's in management from Cranfield University. And I do have professional courses in tech, such as SQL expert and a certified Oracle professional. So, after that, I did work with Oracle in France and in the UK. And, after gaining that experience, because I'm impact driven, I've always wanted to transfer knowledge. So I found myself moving back to Nigeria, live in London, with a fintech solution. And this was quite early, I think in the early 2010. I came in with a fintech solution, digital banking, QR code payments, wallets, but I was too early for the Nigerian market. So I found myself explaining a lot of what the technology can do, but people didn't really understand how to apply it. But I was in the right room, the right people. And fortunately, they were able to identify the talent and intentions I have, and they offered me a government position where I was appointed the head of e-government in Nigeria. So this exposed me to national critical projects such as the Visa on Arrival in Nigeria, the National Identity Program, linking national identity to other parastatals and ministries such as the pension, such as the telecom industry. So it exposed me to a lot of infrastructure and digital public good um, opportunities. And that, really showed me the importance of ecosystem. For example, I came in as an individual and I didn't really know if there was an ecosystem around what I was trying to do. If I came in 10 years after, believe me, my startup would have been successful because AfriLabs is here. The hub setups are here. There's now an ecosystem around, different opportunities and different types of mentorship and even government support nowadays. So I think it really showed me the impact of having an active ecosystem with all stakeholders involved, both government, private sector, and non-profits as well. So that's it really. And then, I had the opportunity to join AfriLabs. AfriLabs was a successful nonprofit before I joined. At the time, it's been 11 years old. Now, after me joining 4 years after, so we're now about 15 years old, I've been able to digitally transform the organization by creating its own digital platform called AfriLabs Connect. This is our own version of LinkedIn, connecting the whole of Africa, all the stakeholders on one platform. You can chat, you can post, you can see what's going on in the ecosystem real time. We're also launching a version 2 of that platform this year to have a mobile app on the Play Store and iOS, also featuring a deal room that is targeted at growth scale-ups with a fund size of $2.2 billion, ready to invest in African startups and also African startups who are looking to scale across the Continental Free Trade Agreement area. So we're doing a lot of work, even in policy, where we're supporting startup acts. We've supported 9 countries. So they have clear definitions for what a startup is, how to invest in a startup, and also financial instruments that could aid and accelerate innovation in the startup ecosystem. I could go on, but let me stop here.
It's first of all, it's your show. There's no boundary. I am really enjoying what you're saying, and it is, and that leads to my another question that people generally feel very comfortable when they get a job, and as you mentioned, you get a government position, and obviously where you were exposed. But now moving from that job to building an ecosystem, what Lab is doing. So how this transition happened?
Yeah, so I was headhunted to join AfriLabs, and I've always known about the ecosystem and everything else, but because I was so focused on public sector, I wasn't really informed of, what's going on around me. So by the time I got approached by AfriLabs, I did thorough research and, our values aligned 100%. I knew this is where I need to be to make the impact I want to make because AfriLabs is the second largest organization in Africa, only second to the African Union in terms of reach and capacity. We feed, help, and support 80 million young people across the continent. So our impact is felt, pan-African. We have 500 to 600 physical locations in 225 cities in 53 countries. So we're really, really responsible for, the next wave of Africans and the future of Africa as well. So not only capacity building, we also have an AfriLabs Academy where we offer free courses on building entrepreneurship programs, building accelerators, building incubators, things. So, when they sold AfriLabs to me, it was just an alignment, I'd already said yes before even thinking about it. So, and yes, I've not had any regrets so far. It's been great. The community has been great. The impact has been great. I think since my arrival, I've been to at least 18 to 25 African countries. I've seen what's going on ground. I can relate with a lot of ecosystems and what people need at certain times. And this allows me to speak about Africa internationally as well. Also bringing in the right partners, the right investments, and the ability to know who truly wants prosperity for Africa and who is trying to take advantage.
Wow. Um, $2.2 billion, second, second organization, 80 million, youth. It sounds impressive, but I want to understand, AfriLab from your perspective. Like, if you tell me, what exactly AfriLab role here, the ecosystem you're building in a very simple manner, because your message is going to 40,000 plus people right now, and they want to understand what exactly the purpose of AfriLab and how it works.
So AfriLab means different things to different people at different levels. So I'll try to categorize it
Yeah.
in my explanation. So you'd say on a very, very high level, what does it mean for outsiders looking into Africa, people who don't
Yeah.
understand Africa, and you're trying to look for a gateway into Africa, right? AfriLabs is that partner who has partnerships, physical locations, young people, government people in Africa everywhere. So if you're looking to do research or understand or invest or move your business to Africa, AfriLabs is your gateway. Our success examples are the likes of Intel Corporation. So this is the Intel that makes the computer chip in your computer. We brought them into Africa. We started with a deep tech mapping where we're looking at all the deep tech startups in Africa. We identified 250 deep techs that are at least 15 years old on the continent. And now Intel is building community outreach programs where young Africans are contributing directly to the world's innovation through Intel. African contribution now is coming into AI, local African languages, African perspective, so it enriches, the position for Africa. Also, we're leading technology with the Gates Foundation. We've done mapping on AI ethics in Africa. So allowing more and more international partners and players come into the continent through a structured approach. So that's on a high level. On a government level, we are the bridge between the private sector and government because we're a nonprofit, so we don't really have a side to play other than impact. So we translate private sector needs to government. We also try translate government fears, regulations to private sector, and any contractors or any businesses in between that could offer software, services, hardware to government or private sector. We also help broker deals, help organize meetings with key stakeholders, help introduction to the ecosystem so they can have local support instead of hiring out of Africa. They can use real Africans to have their support team, their development team, their training team. We run train the trainer programs across the continent. We run fellowship programs as well. One of our fellowship programs is with the African Union. We're in our second cohort now where we push young people into the African Union, into key positions, and they're digitizing the African Union from within, offering solutions so they can work better, so they can make more better data-focused decision-making, and so on. And then for investors, AfriLabs is your gateway to the risk startups. We have two funds. We have a catalytic fund that is focused on early stage startups. So we partner with the African Angel Business Network, where an angel invests in a startup that is coming from the AfriLabs network. And then say, for example, they invest 10,000 euros. AfriLabs would double that investment with 20,000 euros, and the startup receives 30,000 euros. So the idea is Africans investing in African startups, and also international partners are looking at where Africans are investing. Because if Africans are investing in certain companies, it shows that there is success or there is a more chance of this company making the unicorn or zebra status. Because if the local people are believing in the company, most of the time the company is doing something right. And then if they invest over 10,000, we triple it as a grant. So 20,000 becomes 60,000, in total 80,000 to the startup. And then we have a more mature fund called ACDR, the AfriLabs Connect Deal Room. That is focused at growth stage. It's valued at $2.2 billion. We're supporting startups or growth stages who want to scale across Africa. We have investors there who are ready to invest patient capital. They understand Africa, they understand the risk. So we're looking at credible startups to apply to that program. We also have, on a policy side, we do international business gateways. We're partners, are members of the World Trade Center. We have MOUs with the Saudi Ministry of Trade and Investment, Korea, the UAE, the US, the UK. So we're basically an embassy for business opportunities and digital services across Africa. And then to the young people, the students, academia, we're a point of research, we're a point of development, we're a point of mentorship. We have our hubs. They can come into our centers, bring their ideas, we incubate them, we accelerate them, we give them mentorship, we guide them through the entrepreneurship journey. And, we build capacity of young people. And finally, you train a young person, you give them all the skills, you also need to introduce them to jobs. So we are one of the biggest employers in Africa through BPO services. So we have business process outsourcing services. As I said, 500 locations are also 500 workstations. So we have young people actively working from our hubs, working remote work from globally all over the world. But the good thing here is they are not migrating out of Africa. They are working in Africa for world-class companies, and this allows them innovate locally, right? So it exposes them to see, okay, if I'm doing this in my work, that means I can do this, I can fix this problem in my village, I can fix this problem in my town. So it allows them come back to the hub where they work to look at the idea and formulate a solution out of it. So you're not trapped in a 9 to 5 for life. There's also a gateway for entrepreneurship as well. So that's in summary.
Wow. So maybe the first question which comes in my mind is how you and your team gets a sleep, right? You are busy everywhere, right?
Oh,
And
yes, yes, yes.
and when you reach to a global stage, then you have to work, around the sun. So wherever and every part, the sun is already there. Whether it's coming from US or Australia, and Africa is becoming a central hub or the attention for the foreign investors.
True, true. Yes, yes. We try to balance. We have a team of about 55 people operating in 15 countries. So, and the average age of the team is about 31, 32. So it's actually young people doing really, really, really great things. And we're driven by passion, this if we don't go to work one day, somebody suffers. That's the mentality. So we need to show up because of the ripple effect of the work we do. So that's what really drives us. We work hard. We also play hard. You should attend our events. There's the AfriLabs annual gathering this year in Nairobi. It's full days of serious work, collaborating with all the decision makers in Africa. We have representations from at least 80 countries a year. This is our 10th edition of this event, and we have an average of 3,000 people every year. So it's an institutional event for Africa's technology, this time in Nairobi. And at night, we party, we have a full African gala where you have to dress up, and, dress like royalty. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The AfriLabs network is really where everyone should connect.
Yeah, I personally feel and experience that galas, the local dresses and the songs, which actually give a goosebump. Also, it's a
Mhm.
super excited songs and full of energy, and all the natives are actually enjoying those on those beats. It's really really interesting event to attend that.
Yes. Sure.
And obviously, you know, that's where you build an ecosystem. That's where the foundation of ecosystem, you know, comes together when you bring all the cultures together on at a one event or at a one platform.
Mm. Yes, yes, I agree. Totally agree.
Mm. Now, right now, like obviously, when there's an opportunity, there is a challenges. So, and the most of the people see Africa as a not as a continent but as a country, right? So they say, okay, Africa is a one country, but there are 53 countries, you know, there, and 53 countries bring up 53 different culture. So, how you manage these cultures and align them on a particular vision?
Okay, so if you go to our website, you'd see our values. Number one value is Ubuntu, right?
Mm,
Ubuntu is an African value system where everyone has empathy with everyone. We both share each other's beliefs, visions, values, right? So AfriLabs is a network connecting people of like values. That's number one, right? So no matter where you're from, what age you are, so far, you share the same value for Africa, the same impact values that we share. Already, you are part of the network. So you already see that um, there are certain things we don't argue about.
mm,
And, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but AfriLabs is actually Africa's first and true blockchain. You know, it's completely decentralized. We have a secretariat, but we work through 500 to 600 hubs, and it is totally community led. There's no one owner, there's no founder, there's no single person you can point to say this is the person responsible for AfriLabs. It's always been a collective. It's always been about the community. Even
mm,
till today, we have elections every 2 years, and that is all the members of the community. We select board members. We select North Africa representative, East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, South Africa. There's a board member at large. There's the treasurer, the chairman. Everything is free, fair, and elected. The secretariat holds all the executive decision making, which is headed by the executive director and myself, the COO. So it's a very, very structured organization. It's an institution, really. And we deal with everyone, or the UN, the GIZs, the Friend Development Banks, everyone. We're audited at least 10 times a year by different governments. So we're a very, very strong institution in Africa. And we've built the model where we can handle large infrastructure projects, large capacity building projects, projects running into multi-million dollars, long-term projects. We have our success stories. We release yearly impact reports. There's one that's going to be released next week,
mm.
impact of what we did last year. So it's very transparent organization on how we run and deliver our work.
No, I'm pretty much sure, you know, the nowadays the decentralization is very much there, and obviously with the full governance. And you rightly use the word blockchain, which is actually the provides all these uh, features by default as enabled. And you know, one of my known also talk about is the seal of trust, and that's
Mm.
where the trust between among employees and the trust among the process, so that anyone can come in and perform. But again, any challenges which you when you joined, you know, the around 4 years back. So any challenges which you pursue at that time you want to share with us, or maybe current challenges which you want to share as a company you are facing, as a leader you are facing.
Okay, I'd say something I saw different because I was coming in from my experience in private sector, also
Mm,
experience in public sector, and the development space, the nonprofit space is completely different to either or, you know. And, you know, the way revenue is generated, that's what really shocked me because there's some things that you see and you know that this makes sense, you know, who
mm,
wouldn't want to support, who wouldn't want to donate? But you put it out there and you see nobody's supporting, nobody's donating. And then if you take it personal, you would see every human being as heartless, as no empathy. Why would you not want to support young people? Why would you not want to support, women in technology or women in education or women's, health issues? But
Wow.
you just see that sometimes the funding isn't really there. And one thing I think we should really pay attention to is, intentionality of ensuring that we put aside a place for research and development and also a place for impact. Everything shouldn't really be profit, profit, profit. There's some things that are bigger than profit. For example, and this is a very small example.
Yeah.
We have companies that are in the manufacturing of sanitary towels, right?
Hmm.
And they manufacture it and they sell it to schoolgirls, right? So that if you look at it on the surface level, it is a basic need. They need it, you sell it to schoolgirls. But if you look at the bigger impact is if the schoolgirl doesn't have that,
Hmm.
she misses school for what? 2 weeks. There's
Hmm.
2 weeks in a month. If she misses school every 2 weeks in a month for 5 months, she's never really going to catch up. And two, the likelihood of her not coming to school is higher.
Hmm.
So that single sanitary towel has kept someone's career for 20 years possible. So
Hmm.
you're literally removing someone that would die in poverty to remain in education by just providing that simple thing. So the ripple effect of impact is so much bigger than looking at that company to say, why would I invest in that company? It's just doing the basic thing everybody else is doing. So we need to really pay attention and have like a lens of impact and sustainability, you know. And then for Africa, they say we have a very young population, it's a very big advantage with the future youth workforce. All well and good, that is great, but we're not paying attention to the indigenous knowledge.
Hmm.
We're 70% young people, meaning there's only 30% old people. And these guys are the wisest of wise. They have all the knowledge, they have all the indigenous, information. They can smell when rain is coming. They know all these things, but there's no technology, right? We need
Hmm.
to focus on getting that information before it disappears. We need to use AI, we need to use machine learning, we need to use all these tools to gather the information from our elders so we can create, unique solutions that are right for our people, our environment. We don't need to copycat all the time, we can actually look at indigenous solutions that are possible. I'll give you an example, real life example. There's a village in Nigeria when children are born, the midwives, that's the people who take care of the baby, from the first cry, they know whether the baby has an issue, a birth issue or health issue. From the first cry, they can hear exactly what the problem is. So we have two guys who studied in MIT. They came to Nigeria for holiday. They discovered this in the village. They moved back to Nigeria, opened up a small lab, studied it, researched it, built an algorithm around it. And now this is being used in US hospitals.
Wow.
There's a recorder, records, and then it generates the analysis.
Hmm.
And this
And
is from a village. So
wow.
imagine what is happening in a village in India, a village in Tanzania, a village in Africa, a village in. So
Hmm.
we need to use technology a different way to bring all this indigenous knowledge, put a layer of convenience on it, interaction, ease, and everything, understanding, display, visualization, use technology, and then package it as a new product to the world. So I
Yeah.
think that's something that people are really missing. They need to look back instead of look forward. Let's look back at what we're good at and see how we can use technology to digitize.
So you gave a very important aspect, not from a technology perspective, but you are making, if I look at a, from a impact, point of view, you are actually making the Africa as an exporter, you know. So
Mhm.
that when you start exporting it, definitely the way the revenue start increasing, the the GDPs will start increasing, and definitely these unique skills which are actually has been missing in this modern world, you know, that has something which is more authentic, and the authenticity is something which people are ready to pay. And this is a
Exactly.
very important message to all the investors, that this is the continent which you have to look into, and this is something which you have to take some pause, have some patience, and also become a part of that success. And Affilab is, as AJ mentioned, it's a gateway to enter into this huge world of opportunities. So thank you
Huge.
for bringing that important message, and I can relate all these points which is there, because we have seen all these things in the films, in the movies, right? The movies
Exactly.
is getting a becoming a they are becoming multimillionaire, but actually the problems still remain on the ground. So thank you so much
Mm.
for bringing this thing.
You're welcome.
Hmm. So if I look at the one level down, so it means the ecosystem which you have, so they already have such type of unique solutions, maybe in the form of MVP, or maybe a real product, or the live products, which can be taken immediately and can be deployed on a case by case basis across the globe.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So I'm saying that the way I understand, that you have a multiple in your ecosystem, you have a multiple products, either in the form of MVP, minimum viable products, or the live products, who can be immediately plug in and can be used in any of the region to solve that problem.
Oh, so it's at different levels. We have idea stage, we have MVPs, we have growth stage, we have series stage, seed. It all depends. We even have unicorns, there's one of our hubs who supported a startup called Paystack. Paystack got acquired by Sprint, and
Mm,
now it's valued over $1 billion. So that's one of our unicorn success stories. Flutterwave comes out of the ecosystem as well. So, it all depends on it's a whole ecosystem, as I said, everybody's pulling everybody together. You have successful startups also creating some sort of program for early stage startups so they learn from what they're learning as well. We're trying to build a big brother model where, people who have made it can share especially their failures, we really, really need to hear the failures because that's the real lesson in business. And a lot of people don't talk about the failures, but we're very much interested in the failures. So the more young people can learn and, know where not to go, you know.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And obviously the failures will give us more long-term lessons rather than just the success which they got immediately. Mm.
Exactly.
So in your view, AJ, what kind of support do African startups require other than the finance,
Mm. So number one is um I think it's gonna get political, but there are two things that are quite political that I think it needs to be mentioned. Number one is movement, right? This whole visa stuff doesn't make sense. That I need to have 30 visas to go around Africa. As an
Mm,
African, I need to
mm,
apply for visa. It doesn't make sense. So that needs to go completely.
mm,
Uh, and then number two is the perception of Africa, how
mm,
Africa is being portrayed by global media. You know,
mm,
Nothing good ever comes out of Africa. There's no good news. It's always war, it's always, there's bad news everywhere. Every country has, so if you watch you wake up every day, there's bad news in every country, but Africa is only bad news every day. So we need to
mm,
change how it's perceived. And I know there's a lot of you because we spent a lot on the creative industry. You can see the success of Nollywood. You can see the success of film industry in
Mm,
Egypt, in South Africa. But we still need it's a gradual thing, but we still need to change the perception, show Africa in a different light. And people need to be open-minded as well to receive that new vision.
mm,
So yeah, I think those two things, and then obviously infrastructure. I'm trying to avoid the mentioning of finance, as you said, but
yeah.
infrastructure is very, very key as well. I think once the power issue is sorted, the world hasn't even seen anything yet. Right now, we have about 10 unicorns. That is 10 companies who are valued at $1 billion and over each. 5 to 6 of them are in Nigeria alone.
Mm,
Um, so and even if that 5 to 6, five is only from one city in Nigeria called Lagos. So you can see it's
mm,
very concentrated. And Lagos doesn't even have 24 hours power, you see, and you have 5 unicorns in technology. So imagine if the power issue is solved. You can just imagine the
mm.
potential that is going to come up. So yeah, I think infrastructure is a very, very critical thing that needs to be addressed as well.
Hmm. If you allow, I want to add one more point. I'm sure you are handling it. Regarding when we talk about the AIs, which is emerging. So how the youth is getting exposed to AI or the emerging technologies? Is it
Okay.
something which is read in school or something like in the
So
African
very
countries?
good you mentioned AI. We're doing a lot of work. In fact, we're one of the organizations in Africa doing the most in AI. We've
Hmm.
had a mapping with Intel. We've had a mapping with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We've had a mapping with Qatar Foundation, and they're all different. So the Qatar is focused on AI in higher education. How can we apply AI to higher education in Africa? Bill and
Hmm.
Melinda Gates is AI in ethics, AI in policy. The one with Intel is AI as per engineers, developers, deep tech. So we're
Hmm.
attacking it from every angle. We're also
Hmm.
attacking it from the job perspective of training people to AI job descriptions that are in demand right now as well. So we're addressing it on different levels. And as AfriLabs, as an organization itself, we've built our own AI called Amari.
Hmm.
This AI has information that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. This is AfriLab's database, 15-year-old database of Pan-African knowledge. We've loaded it into the AI. We're testing it internally with our team right now. And then at some points, maybe this year, late this year, early next year, we will then release it to the public. So when you actually make a query, you will get
Hmm.
real African responses, and this is available in all languages, all African languages as well. So we're also training it with local languages as well. So we're doing a lot of work in AI. I speak a lot about AI globally as well. So yeah, it's definitely the future. And the thing about AI is it's the more data available is the perception it would take. So Africa really needs to contribute to this AI race. We need to own our narrative so we don't allow the computer or anybody form a narrative for Africa. We need our own contribution into the large language models, into, pumping it into the AI engine. So at least true African story can be told even using AI.
I'm pretty much sure there are so many use cases which you are working and which you have produced on a real time. Now, I'm now very much curious about to understand how the youth of Africa. I always heard that Africa is a youthful continent because the teenager population is very high.
Mhm.
So how the youth of Africa reacts to the technology, how technology savvy they are, and how they think, and how they are adaptive to this sort of innovation.
Okay, so the youth of Africa is quite different from every other youth in the world. So if you look at the history of Africa, it's been monarchies, dictatorships, and young democracies, right? And
Mm,
in each of those government standards, it takes maturity for them to consider youth. So youth is always the last thing considered, right? In those kind of things, in the early stage of those things. So the youth have found a way to build resilience, not waiting for government, not waiting for infrastructure, just relying on technology. So the government says, I'm too young to have a bank account. I'm going to open a crypto wallet.
mm,
You see what I mean?
yeah.
I don't have I can't go to the library, it's too far. I'm going to read online, you know? So technology offers a lot of alternatives for young people to still thrive without the infrastructure issues. As long as you have a smartphone, you have a
Mm,
mobile network, you have access to the world. So you see that young Africans are performing and outperforming other young people, even with the little they have, because they now have exposure. They have access to the internet. They have access to devices, and this is what, is the game changer. You see them. In fact, what we've noticed is more young people after high school, they don't even go to universities anymore. They go to a hub. They study whether back end or front end or UI UX or be a full stack. And immediately 2 years after, they have a job and they are
mm,
respected in that job. They're earning way more than them spending 4 years studying sociology and getting out and not finding a job. So
right.
they already, nobody needs to convince them to study STEM courses. Everybody's going technical because they know that this is where the demand is. And how do they know? Because the information is there. Before you could be misled, but now everybody sees the future is tech. So they're going there, they're learning, they're investing, they're taking their chances, and technology is building a new way. You can see in Nigeria, we're heavily reliant on oil.
Mm,
And you can see that the next second biggest industry is the telecommunications industry. And that gave $10 billion into the GDP last year. And oil
mm,
contributed about $20 billion. So you can see that we're now more and more inclined into tech. And the whole world, the whole continent, and young people can see that as well.
yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah, so it's always like whenever it comes to Africa reference, so Nigeria is and South Africa, the two countries which has been given a reference. So and always the Nigeria generates a more revenue as per the reports compared to any other country in in Africa. So I truly agree with you that the adoption and the creation and innovation done by the youngsters and the fresh minds for Africa by Africans is something which is a benchmark, going to be a benchmark. And thank you for Afri Labs becoming giving them a platform and becoming an enabler for that.
Fantastic.
Right. I'm also looking for maybe if you want to share some examples of the solutions or the offering which this youth is or the entrepreneurs are bringing to the world. You have already given two, but maybe some more, a couple of more if you want to share with us that will create a more interest to the investors who are listening to the show.
Okay. There is a Tunisian startup that had the biggest exit in Africa. I think they exited at $620 million. And now a unicorn. And started off in Tunisia.
Mm,
And I'm highlighting Tunisia because they have one of the best startup acts on the continent. If you're a Tunisian and you decide to go into the entrepreneurship journey and you're currently in a 9 to 5, the government would freeze your job in the nine
mm,
to five, ensure you don't lose that job. They will support you in your entrepreneurship journey for 2 years. And if you fail, they will guarantee you back your old job, you
mm,
know and that allows you to innovate without stress, without the pressure, and to focus. So these startup they created a solution around predicting the next global health issues or the next pandemic, to prevent another COVID, you know.
Oh,
And yeah, they were acquired by one of the big farmers, and now the success story. So I mentioned that because it's very, very high level, and nobody
yeah,
thinks of Africa and Africa coming out with that type of solution where it's in a lab, it's research and development, it's been, research for over 25 years. You always think of the West or Europe.
yeah.
We also have those type of labs and solutions in Africa. So you just really need to come to us with what you need, and then we'll be able to facilitate any type of deals and investments. So many, many examples.
You are changing the perspective, AJ. Believe me, because you rightly spotted that people generally consider the Western and the European or the Australian part to think about that what should be the next way. But the way these startups are building the system, the whole ecosystem, it's a more over a proactive way rather than the reactive. So, and this is
Exactly.
what the world is there. And I can also understand the affordability, because if it is then it is affordable and it can serve billions of people.
Yes.
The solution for all, for every individual. So thank for bringing that up. Now I'm more interested into one more part, because now the diversification and the complexity of your job has increased day by day, and I can imagine it very well. So how, as a leader, you keep yourself calm and make sure that all the parts are moving in the right direction and fully aligned?
I think it's really about having a long-term strategy. So
Mm,
in 2022, we formulated a 10-year strategy that takes
mm,
us from then to 2031. So no matter how overwhelmed we are or how clouded everything, once everything gets confusing, we just go back to the strategy and look back and reflect. Where are we? What are we doing? Where are we going to? What resources do we have to get there? So that always, because it's very easy. We're doing so many things. Last year, I think we concluded about 50 projects.
mm,
And these projects must have gone around the continent at least 15 times, meaning that we have done projects in 53 countries 15 times last year with different partners, different frameworks, different M&Es, different expectations, and plus our flagship event as well of having a 3,000 capacity event in a different country every year. So we've built that capacity to handle multiple things. But yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot, but I'm not going to be here forever. But the main thing is building the right structures so it's easier for the next person and the next person as
mm.
we.
Very well said. Yeah, obviously, when you are creating a whole ecosystem and a lasting empire, so that it should not be a short term or mid term. I really love the idea of your long term strategy, and also the lot of innovation which you are doing and reforming which you are doing into that. Now,
Yes.
now these ecosystems come with a lot of collaborations. So what, and you're obviously you cannot allow each and every person to be part of that ecosystem. So what is your qualification criteria for the newcomers who want to join the FP Labs?
Okay, that's a very good question and something we're currently working on. So Afrilabs, to join as a member, as a hub, you
Hmm.
have to have an innovation space. You have to have been running programs, supporting young people, building capacity, and have had at least a cohort of people who have graduated from your program so we can interview them to find out their experiences with your program. And this is not to knock down your program, but just to know what type of capacity building you need in delivering your intention for young
Mhm.
people. Because sometimes people just, with good intentions, deliver poor work.
Yeah.
And, the ripple effect is you're now going to instill poor discipline into a young person who never knew anything. Sometimes it's better not to be mentored than to be mentored by the wrong person.
Mm,
You know. So yeah, so the criteria is quite high to be an AfriLabs hub. But we're also looking at because there are at least 1,300 hubs in Africa. We have 600. Not everybody is in the network because of our criteria.
mm,
Um, I was going to say something. Yeah. So, and then we're also opening up to other stakeholders, apart from hubs. And this is what I said we're working on. We're going to launch something called the AfriLabs Affiliate Program. We're targeting different value propositions to startups, to investors, to um, government institutions, to CVCs, to anybody who, or even in corporates who are looking to come into Africa. We're tailoring different value propositions to each individual to support them through that. We even also support, as I was saying, free mentorship,
mm,
free hand holding, free market entry. For example, members of our affiliate program, if they want to move to Saudi or they want to move to what's this other country? Sometimes the US, we can facilitate that for free. For
mm.
Korea, we can do that for free. We speak to the government there. We tell them that they're coming through AfriLabs, and then all that support is given for free. So these are the kind of opportunities that we can, you know.
The cross borders and the cross geographies are very much important to make this system running because obviously the knowledge sharing is happening all across. So your
Mhm.
knowledge to them and their knowledge to us definitely
Exactly.
creates a win-win situation for both the continents.
And also the brand AfriLabs as well. Once you mention it, people know, okay, you're connected to the right people. You know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. So it's a good de-risking factor across the continent because we work with the AU, we work with the UN, we work with all the big unilaterals, multilaterals. So we're very much known as a
Mm.
trustworthy organization in Africa.
Yeah, I remember there was one instance, where we bring a partner, but at the end of the day, the value was nothing. And sometimes it's a very risk of bringing any partner. So it's a very thoughtful process. And definitely, I am pretty much sure as you mentioned, the process of getting qualified and the due diligence is very, very strict. And this is really appreciated if we want to make it a ecosystem with a real values because the people trust should be a trustworthy and that they should contribute in your vision. So I'm really really happy and thank you for bringing that thing for that part. I don't want to know like those people who are and this is a very different question right now because you are surrounded with the innovators, but there are still people who are in their 9 to 5 job, right? And they want to build something of their own. They have some ideas, but they just don't know what to do and how to manage the operations, how to put the money in the R&D, and there are so many factors are there. What is your advice to those guys? Should they leave
Oh,
the
fantastic.
job, or like, please, I want to understand.
In fact, this is a very popular issue, and we've built a program around it. So we have our investment readiness program,
Mm,
which would support you. So you have an idea, you don't know how to go through it. What you lack is investment readiness. You don't know what to do to make yourself attractive to investment. What are the things you need to have for an investor to look at you and say, okay, I want to put my money here. I believe in this person. So we put you through that program. And then the ideas that come out of it, we handhold you. We even, in some cases, become your co-founder, right?
mm,
So we drive the organization with you together to a position where you can now drive it. Or sometimes even you that are the owner of the idea, you might not be the best CEO for that company. We might identify that you are not the one that's going to drive this company to the next level. You may need to hire a CEO while you remain as a founder. So we
mm.
give the hard truth sometimes, because at the end of the day, we're looking at multiplication for Africa. We're building strong institutions, so we're not going to let a weak system go into the market because it's only going to hire people and fire them at the end of the day. So we're trying to build sustainable organizations. So we help with that as well. So everybody's really welcome. There are different programs, different angles to join the network. Also, the academy is there. You go through the courses, it gives you a university grade certificate, and then you learn on how to build a sustainable venture as well.
Oh, wow, so it's not a one answer for this question. There are multiple ways which you are surrounding that idea to get, first of all, reach to a real potential, and then will be a scalable to the global markets.
Mm-hmm.
And not
Yeah.
and also building the whole organization who is actually working for that idea, like as you mentioned, co-founder or giving a CEO and the experts to make it happen. A wonderful approach. um, this is something which is an outsider, but the people who are already inside in that ecosystem. So they may make some mistakes. They want to make some quick money. That's what the most of the wish list of the startups or entrepreneurs are. So how you manage their expectation, like where they are going wrong and how you are controlling them.
Yeah, so I always ask the founders from the beginning, why are you here? What motivates you to do the business? Are you looking at money? Are you looking at impact? What is really the drivers, for your business? And if the founder is saying he's interested in impact,
Mhm.
I advise him differently. If he's saying he's interested in continuity, he wants to build a business so he can hand it over to his children, his children's children, it's a different pathway. If you're in this business and you're looking at an exit in the next 10 years, you want to hit 10x, you want to exit in 10 years, it's a different pathway. So people need to understand that the intention you have for the business um, really it influences the decision making you're going to make. So you need to be very clear from the beginning what type of business you're building. So I provide that clarity from the get-go. And then say, for example, you choose 10x. I tell
Mm,
you need to start agile. You cannot be emotional with your percentages, with the equity. You have to let
mm,
it go. 10% of 100 is better than 100% of zero,
yeah.
So if you want to really scale fast, you can't be emotional with giving out your equity. You need to make tough decisions. You need to move agile, and you need to get to where you need to get the quickest time possible. If you're looking to build a long-term business, I would say be very, very tight with your equity position because that is what you're going to use to grow stage by stage. Try and raise money from friends and family first. Do some debt capital raising. See how you can get inverse financing done. There are different angles.
Mm.
So the advice is different depending on the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing because every case is different, every
Yeah,
wish list is different, and obviously the stage of their ideas or products is different. Right.
exactly.
But thank for bringing in up. I'm still, there are a lot many questions going in my head, but again, in the interest of time, I want to take a pause. But I
Yes.
really would like to continue our session for the further also in our next appointment. But believe me, thank you so much for bringing all these pointers and the innovation which we are building, for Africa, by Africans, for Africans within the community of Afri Labs. It's really inspiring eye opener for me personally, and I'm really loving the fact that you as an enabler and as a gateway to bring the innovation, and technology is at your fingertips. So you guys are expert on bringing a new technology and you making it a practical monetizable use cases, and that's what
Yes,
is
thank you
required.
very much. Thank
Any
you.
last message you want to share with our audience?
Just Try to forget what you know about Africa. Take a fresh approach. Look at what we're doing. Research AfriLabs. Look at the work we're doing. This is young people doing great things. Huge budgets. We have many success stories. We are your gateway to the continent. With peace of mind. And even if you are working for a multinational or DFI, if you want to have executors, local executors, grassroots, high level, you need to reach out to us as well. We cover all angles, and you should also know that we're Africa first. So our agenda is always what is best for Africa. So I'd just like to appreciate Deepak. Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you for reaching out. A fantastic platform. And I hope I'm able to spread the word and have a positive impact with the information I've been able to produce.
Definitely. And whatever you mentioned, it's a all the points which you have pressed is a need of the hour. And thank you so much on the behalf of all the 40,000 plus connections and the value seller team. I really appreciate your time. And wherever we can contribute in your success, we are happy to support. And
Thank you.
anyway, if there's someone want to connect with you or your team, what will be the right way?
So you can connect with me directly at Ajibola at afrilabs.com. And then social media is AJ David Banks. So,
Right.
and directly to the secretariat, you can reach out to secretariat at afrilabs.com. And then you can also go to our website. You can join the AfriLabs Academy, join AfriLabs Connect, that is our social platform, and then interact with different platforms and engagements. We have a women empowerment program called Rev Up Women. You can go to the website as well, supporting female-run and female-led businesses. Yes, so that's it really.
Great. And thanks for opening up so many channels so that people can connect with you. And great insights and a really eye-opener. You have changed my perspective towards Africa. Although I'm working for Africa since many years, but the way you explain Africa, I think I'm just a beginner. Right.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. And until next time, this is Deepak Bajaj signing off. Cheers.
Thank you.